As you probably know, Republicans are currently in the minority in both the state Senate and the Assembly. And that makes it more difficult to get legislation through that they support unless it's a bipartisan issue. But in the last 3 years in particular, New York's Republican Party has flipped the script, using public events and hot-button issues to sway public opinion, usually focusing on crime and the state's rising cost of living. One Republican at the forefront of that strategy is Assembly Minority Leader Will Barclay from Central New York. We spoke this week about this year's legislative session, top issues facing New Yorkers, and more. Assembly Republican Leader Will Barclay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course, anytime. So let's start with your priorities. You have had a very big presence at the Capitol the past couple of years, talking about issues like affordability and criminal justice reform in particular. What do you see for this year? It's a strange year because it's the first year that we're kind of not out of COVID, but I think everything's back to normal at the Capitol for the most part. Where's your conference right now?
Well, that's nice. Certainly crime. You mentioned criminal justice. We've seen polling recently out says 90% of New Yorkers are concerned about crime. We saw the results of the election. Lee Zeldin almost won the governorship running on crime. So certainly crime. We'd like to see bail back to judges' discretion on bail, raise the age, but we certainly can't go any farther. The progressives seem to want to go farther. They want to do elderly parole. They want to do more with the, I guess, more with bail. So I'm happy that the governor, I'm happy Mayor Adams, the DA in Albany County, all of them talking about getting back and looking at criminal justice.
Is it frustrating sometimes when you're talking about these issues because you are the Assembly Republican leader, you're in the minority, so it would be very rare for a bill from your conference to come to the fore on something like criminal justice reform. But I would argue that your conference and the Senate Republican Conference are the two most outspoken conferences on rolling back bail reform, making changes to it as we move forward. Is it frustrating being in that position to kind of not be able to do it legislatively, but to do it publicly?
Well, I have a high tolerance for frustration, obviously, working in Albany as long as I have. But no, we do feel like we're making a difference. I would remind you that, especially on bail, it has been revisited twice under the former administration. And we do feel like we have the bully pulpit, we have a voice out there. And clearly, it's not just us. I mean, it is New Yorkers. And I think the Democrats, we picked up 5 seats, by the way, in our conference this year. Mostly in New York City and in Long Island, where crime really was a central issue. So I do think, obviously we would love to be able to pass legislation right away and get it done. But I do think we are having an effect on it, and it's working. So we'll see where it goes. With the way this legislature is set up with the progressives, these are always very tough hurdles to do. But I do feel optimistic that we can get something done with it.
So let me talk to you about the governor's budget, because bail reform is kind of in there. She wants to make a change on it to eliminate something called the least restrictive means. The judges have to follow that standard in terms of what they're going to do with somebody when they are arrested and brought into court. They have to decide what happens to that person based on the least restrictive means. It's been argued that convinces a judge, basically influences a judge to go more lenient than they may have without that in the law. So the governor's trying to make that change in the budget. Do you think that goes far enough?
It doesn't, but we're happy with that change. At least they're addressing some of the problems. We'd like to see discretion, as I said, for judges, particularly when it comes to dangerousness to the community. Other states that have done bail reform, I think New Jersey has that. Why we can't do that? I remember back in the Rockefeller drug law days, everybody wanted to give judges more discretion on sentencing. Now, for some reason, we don't trust the judges, and we don't want to give them any discretion when it comes to bail. So I think there needs to be a middle ground. I've always said we're open to doing some reform with bail, but unfortunately what, again, the progressives and the liberals have done in the legislature is, taking it way too far. And as a result, we're seeing the crime rate spike.
I want to move on to affordability, because I feel like as much as crime is a top issue for New Yorkers, affordability is something that, I would say most New Yorkers don't experience the criminal justice system in the sense that most New Yorkers are not arrested and go to jail. But every New Yorker has an issue with affordability, unless they have a lot of money. Good for them. That's not me. What do you think the state should do here? I mean, I talk about this with people all the time. It's such a big issue. You could look at things like taxes, tax breaks. You could look at incentives for people to move in. Where do you think we should start in that conversation?
Well, when you're in a hole, they say stop digging, and that's one thing I think we ought to be doing. We have, for the last decade and a half, been on this tax and spend train, I guess, and so we have to change that trajectory. The governor's budget, we had, a $220 billion now. She's proposing a $228 billion budget. When you compare us to other states like Florida, Texas, and even California, which I think is $280 billion, and they have twice the amount of population, this certainly is not a trajectory that we can stay on. And people are leaving. They're moving with their feet. We lost 400,000 people during COVID over the last decade. We've lost over 1 million people. And they're not leaving because we're spending not enough in New York State. So I think we don't even have to cut. If we just slow the growth of spending, I think would go a long ways. And then we have to look at some of the policies that we put on, as you've talked about before, the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act, which is just going to put more and more onerous, to try to get climate control, I guess, is going to put onerous cost on all New Yorkers. So those things we need to delay or revisit and make sure that the cost of living doesn't continue to climb in New York State.
Right, you're referring to not just this, but it's kind of known publicly right now as the debate over gas stoves, where it affects so much more than just your gas stove. But what the state is basically saying is if you have an existing gas stove, keep it, and when it breaks, we want you to convert to an electric, or if you're building like a whole new house, again, not me, I don't have that kind of money, but then you have to not use a gas stove based on the scoping plan from the Climate Action Council and then the governor's recommending it. So it's kind of a long process there. Do you see a middle ground there? Do you think that it's just that we need to do this on a slower trajectory, or do you think that we shouldn't do it at all?
Right. Well, I think that's a great question. We're all for renewable energy. I don't know who's against that. But right now, when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine, we have no way to store electricity. So it seems that somewhat we're putting the cart in front of the horse on this. So we definitely need to slow it down. We're not going to be able to all of a sudden change over to completely renewable energy. Yeah, I think the deadlines are unrealistic. Also, we haven't done any cost benefit, what I was getting at before. This is going to be extremely expensive to implement. And New York's only responsible for something like 0.5% of all global emissions. So even if we spend billions and billions of dollars, we're successful in implementing all these policies that they're talking about, we go completely green, green energy, or we're completely electrified, it's not really going to have that big of an impact on, global emissions. So I think definitely if we could delay it, and I think there's a natural progression going towards renewables, and I think that's fine. We should encourage that, but we can't do it overnight. Yeah,
and I see this. I see this issue from a perspective of like more of an upstate perspective, to be honest with you, because when I talk to people about this issue and they live in a more remote area of the state, so I'm talking about places like the North Country,
where I live,
exactly, where you live in more of the central part of the state. Their concern is that the electric grid may not be reliable enough. So if they lose their gas stove and their power goes out, how are they going to heat their home or cook their food? It's a big issue like that, and there's just so much to think about with it. Yeah, it needs a dose of reality in it, obviously. And again, we're all for clean climate. I'm an outdoorsman. I love the environment. I'm all for helping that, but there just needs to be reality back in the situation. On affordability, it's tough to think about it in a way that regular New Yorkers, it could have this direct impact on them quickly. I think that's where we get lost in the affordability issue, because it's too expensive to live here. I mean, we know that. Everybody acknowledges that. The Democrats acknowledge that. Republicans acknowledge that. Everybody does. I just don't know what could change here. It seems like we've been on this trajectory for a long time. Do you think it's lower taxes? Do you think it's other incentives for people to stay? Well, again, we just got to stop digging when we're in this hole. But we can do a few things. For instance, the gas tax. We had a moratorium on the gas tax for last year. That's now put back on again. I'd love to see that rolled back. We have a bill out there that takes sales tax off of food that you get in the grocery store that you take home to eat. So there's little things that could provide immediate relief to New Yorkers. But ultimately, we have to just stop, as I said, this tax and spend trajectory. And it doesn't mean we have to make drastic cuts. I always talk about school aid formula. If we could update that school aid formula where we're driving money to low wealth districts instead of high wealth districts, we wouldn't have to increase, school aid funding by 10% every year. There's things we could do more efficient in healthcare. The other great thing is the unemployment insurance, where we just put it looks like $11 billion worth of fraud. So we can do things, be more efficient in government, and I don't think are going to be some draconian cuts that are going to affect everybody. I just think we need to get off this. Every year we just increase spending by 5 to 10%. That's just not sustainable. Yeah, I mean, the budget is an interesting thing, because there's an argument between, do we raise spending or do we keep spending flat? And try to make it work. I mean, when you look at that kind of thing, do you think that, I know that you think we spend too much money in the budget, obviously, but do you think that if we kept funding flat, that's just a situation of look at the budget to see where we find those efficiencies and we can keep spending flat? Or do you think that there are areas where we could cut, I guess?
Well, there's certainly areas we could cut. As I said, we could also be more efficient in it. So, like, again, I say just slow the growth of spending, not actually make cuts. And again, we can't afford. We're going to have to make these decisions coming soon. This year, I think we'll be all right from a budget standpoint. Revenue seems to be good, but we had a lot of federal aid in the last few years that's going away. And if the stock market goes down, that's responsible. 30% of our revenues in the state comes from Wall Street. So I think next year, whether we like it or not, we're going to have to make cuts or slow the growth of spending.
Right. I mean, the governor has, especially since the election, tried to make the case that she is the governor for all New Yorkers, Democrats, Republicans, everyone in between. She also, when she first became governor in 2021, kind of indicated that she wanted more collaboration with the minority conferences in the legislature because she's an upstater. I think that she is more familiar with that kind of viewpoint that you and Senator Rob Ortt share. She's been exposed to it more as an upstater from Buffalo. Do you see that?
Well, that certainly was my hope when she first got elected, in the conversations I had when she first got, became from lieutenant governor, became the governor. And I talked about, I suggested to her, we're not going to agree on everything, but as fellow upstaters, maybe we can work on some issues that we could share. And that seemed to go a little on the wayside, frankly, Dan, during the election, which is not surprising. But we have had outreach with her this year, and I'm optimistic. I think we're going to have a meeting coming up with her, so I'm optimistic to express some of the concerns that certainly upstaters, but frankly, all New Yorkers are feeling. And I get back to public protection. I would love to work with the governor. I'd love to work with Mayor Adams, anyone to go back and look at whether it's bail reform, raise the age, et cetera. So I'm optimistic that we can find some common grounds that we can work together on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think that you would have seen that type of outreach under Andrew Cuomo. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. Did you?
No, no, yeah. So that is a difference. So I compliment her on that and look forward to working with her going forward.
We will see where it lands. Assembly Republican Leader Will Barclay, thank you so much.
Thank you.